So all the things you don't want to do, they're the things that you need to do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, have a lot of naturals. Like, I don't like being in front of the camera. Well, that's what you need to do.
Probably, yeah.
Because that's what's stopping you and blocking you from being successful.
You just have to make a conscious decision, I guess. For me, I just, went, what is the one thing I want to focus on?
Yeah.
And even though elite football was probably the worst choice to make at that time, I just went, it's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, whatever it is that you want to do is going to work out.
Welcome back to Balance Beings Uncut, where we talk about health, wellness, and everything in between. Today we have a host joining us, which I'm so excited about. He's the co-founder of Elite Football, Alan here to join us. We're going to be talking about business and everything in between. So, Alan, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, bestie.
You're welcome. So talk us a little bit more about Elite Football and what it is.
Elite Football. So, bit of the spiel. I'm a full-time football agent. Elite Football is a player agency, so we focus on helping amateur players transition into the pro scene of football. Currently, it is the number one player agency in Australia, as you're well aware, and we work with over 25 professional clubs overseas.
Amazing. So me and Alan know each other a little bit further back from the OG days from actually our state high school. And obviously we've come together and we've been catching up, talking about business, marketing and everything in between for probably about 18 months now, would you say?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring Alan on, and you guys probably think it's such a random add-on, but we both have a wealth of knowledge in regards to business, fear points, how to really grow a company from the ground up, essentially. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit more about today. So take me through a little bit more about where your fear points are, or how you got to wanting to start the company or Elite Football.
So I guess, Elite Football wasn't my first business. I did dabble into other businesses. I think that's probably an important note to make.
Yeah.
And in terms of fear points, it's hard to go back and remember, because I think what I used to use as motivation to get me to where I am today is not what I'm currently using to get me where I'm going.
Okay. Whereas I still feel like my fear point's the same.
Yeah.
And my fear point is still the same as where it was 4 years ago when I started. Okay. So I find that really interesting.
Your fear point is success, fear of failure.
It's not fear of failure, it's fear of being poor and not having money and not being able to provide for my family and not being able to do anything I want when I want. Like that feeling of not having that opportunity. And I think, so the more successful I become, the more I feel like I'm running away from that fear point and the less likely I am for it to happen.
Right.
If that makes sense. Like the more successful you become, the more unlikelihood it is that you're going to be poor, right? So that's definitely my fear point, and how I've grown Balance Beings to where it is, for sure, I think is because of that fear point, because obviously everyone's fear point is going to either jump to success or failure.
Do you think you still have it today? Because Balance Beings pretty big now.
The fear point?
Yeah, is it still there?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
But you're would say top 10% of businesses in Australia. So why do you think that's still there?
I don't know why it's there. I don't actually know why, because obviously it'd be really unlikely, even if I lost my whole business right now, I wouldn't be poor, because obviously the way I've, worked the business...
I would hope not.
Yeah. The way I've obviously worked the business and whatnot, even if I was left with nothing right now, I'd still be able to keep my house, I'd still be able to stay afloat. We'd have savings for all of that. It still feels like a fear point, I'm not doing it to be more successful than another competitor or anything like that. Obviously, that's a good feeling when you're doing really well and you're top blah 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 of the state. It obviously feels really good and it feels amazing to help people, and I'm really passionate about helping and changing people's lives. So that's why I obviously loved what I do too, because I actually get to help people and change their lives, and you get to as well. But I actually don't know why the fear point is still there. I think because if I become, for me, it's the more I become successful and get further away, the less likely it is to ever feel the way I felt at certain points in my life where I didn't like that feeling. I didn't feel in control. So it's, I guess, more control to never feel when I felt helpless.
Because see, I feel getting away from me for a second, I feel knowing you, and even just within the last year and a half that we've been sharing experiences, I think you're clinging on to that. But I think that for you right now, especially the last year, you've taken more of an approach of now I'm going to start living the life I want to live. And so there has been moments where you've like pulled away from like not working as much as you were.
Yeah, I don't have the grind anymore,
Uh-huh.
for sure. But that's because I feel safe. Like, I don't feel like, oh yeah, like, but if I step away from the business, nothing's, like, I don't feel like, oh, something's going to fall apart anymore. And so I don't feel like that fear point's going to be executed from stepping away. And so that's why I've been, able to do that, essentially. But I definitely, like, enjoy my life, and wouldn't want it to go back the way it was. Like, if I had, like, one of my managers leave and I had to do all the work that I used to do again, I would be very unhappy, because obviously when you step away and live a really enjoyable life where you're only working 20 hours a week, you're enjoying your kids, you're enjoying your time, you're enjoying being the leader but not being a worker, and you can just step away and just be a leader. So I'm definitely, like, that's definitely, like, something that obviously strives me to success as well, but I don't feel like it's a fear point as such.
Yeah. And you've definitely put the hard yards of like developing that team
3 years
where you have around you, and so you have the luxury to in those moments go, yep, I'm off to Europe for a couple of months, and everything's still
couple of months, 3 weeks, but yeah.
3 weeks. I missed you that much. It was a couple of months for me.
Oh,
and
stop it.
So yeah, that's awesome, I think.
Thank you.
So I wouldn't say you have like still that.
It's not like, oh my God,
fear.
every day I wake up, I'm going to be poor.
Yeah.
I want to grow the business, because I never want to feel like not in control. I wake up and think, I want to grow the business so I can buy a $5 million house in Beach Waters instead of the house that I currently own.
Okay.
So my fear points, like, that's not, I guess my fear point is, like, I don't want to be poor. And then a point of why I'm growing the business now, I guess you're right, is, like, to enjoy life more. For sure. That's why. And because I want to help people more, like, the supplement line that I'm developing is to help more people. And then obviously, like, the more I grow the business, the more nats we get, the more we get to help people as well. So I feel really good about that, because we get better reviews, we get better word of mouth and whatnot. What would you say your fear points are?
Look, I resonate with you definitely on that part of, I think we both had similar backgrounds, how we were raised. Families didn't have that much money.
Yeah.
Money was always an issue. And so I think I resonate with you in like wanting to be super successful, to not live the life that we sort of had growing up, potentially, right? But I think once you start to make money through business and your eyes get opened up to, oh, actually, I can make a lot of money, or certain boxes get checked. I think for me, that focus of like, oh, I need to, run away from my potential life that I don't want to have. I think recently, the last sort of 2 years, it's, I don't know, maybe me wanting to be the person I say I am.
Yeah, that's a good one, for sure.
I think I've noticed, like, a lot of times, like, oh, I'm going to do this, or whatever, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and then it not coming, and that started to really bother me.
Yeah.
And I think I really locked in the last couple of years and went, no, I'm going to do what I say that I'm going to do, and then just start doing that more so than...
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a fear, but yeah.
And I think the thing is, with people that become successful, it's not that you weren't happy when you were working and seeing 30 patients a week versus me seeing 10 a week. It's just that you get a new enjoyment of life. And then if that's stripped away to you and you go back to where you were, you wouldn't be happy, but you're perfectly happy where you were then. And I think that's like a really important comparison. It's like when you step further and further up on the food chain, the more you don't want to step back down, because not that you weren't happy there, but you get happier and happier the further you go up, especially, I guess, if you've got that type A personality, where you've got that really big drive, you don't want to step back down, because that's not going to feel very good either. Definitely feel like we both got that.
Yeah, you definitely have to love business.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people that become, say, sole traders, right? Like they'll go, maybe there's like a naturopath out there watching this video and going like, yeah, I want to run my own naturopathy business, right? And they might really love being a naturopath and everything that is to do with helping people, doing consults and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think we can both agree on that being a business owner and being a naturopath is like two completely separate things. And if you don't love the business, you're never going to grow.
And that's the thing, is I'll mentor amazing naturopaths, and they are amazing naturopaths, but you've got to have different key elements in you to grow a successful business and be able to actually scale and grow it. And I think that that's something to keep in mind as well. Like you've got to, and if you don't have those personality traits, learn to grow them, or be like, get used to being uncomfortable and having those uncomfortable conversations and dealing with that. Like I think that there's so many tips out there for people that are like sole traders nats, because it's so common. I think that probably about 80% of naturopaths out there are sole traders, and they just work on their own, and they're always stuck in that working like 9 to 5, and then they're working on marketing, but they never work on actually scaling the business. And then I even went to a seminar where a lot of nats were asking and talking to me about how I actually got a manager in, because if you think about these people that are in clinics and they are naturopaths, they still are the ones running everything. So they're still mentoring the nats, they're still interviewing the nats, they're still workshopping cases with nats, so they're taking up so much time to then make money off their naturopaths that work under them, instead of it like actually running away and doing the opposite of that. Whereas we've obviously successfully scaled Balance Beings to, like, I don't do any interviews anymore, I don't mentor any of the nats anymore. That's everything that Madison does, our head naturopath and manager. And I think that we definitely need better tools and tips on actually scaling naturopath businesses. And I think that that's where everyone really fails short, and they can't, like, long term they struggle to keep that momentum going of like hiring new nats and then them leaving, and things like that. So I think that, yeah, that's definitely an element that needs to be worked on.
I think it's like, I have no idea what naturopathy even does, besides what the few things you said to me, but
you know a little bit.
It's more like understanding that every business, like when you're scaling it, you're going to go the same sort of format. Like businesses are like 90%, regardless what industry you're in, are like almost the same in how you scale it, in how you delegate, and how like you do things. And I think I learned a lot from you, especially in terms of building a team, and maybe like the processes and systems, and maybe how to delegate the structure of a business. I think I didn't have that as clearly until I started talking to you more about how you sort of did it.
Yep.
And I think, if you don't love it, if you don't love like growing the business, or if you don't enjoy it,
it's going to be hard to...
It's extremely difficult, because you need to almost separate yourself from the business to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people also struggle to not feel like they're in control of all parts of their business. And so if you can't learn to let go and outsource early on, it's going to be difficult for you to want to scale your business, because then it'll get to points where it's harder things to outsource, like from emails to admin to not doing all the client calls like you do. Like, they're hard things to let go of, because you're like, well, that's going to impact my brand image. But if you don't learn to let go of that and like create scripts or create structure so that it's actually streamlined and it's not going to impact your brand image, then it's really unlikely that you're going to be able to grow and scale your business. I think that's something that you definitely learn from me, is like, you have to let go if you want to scale, and you have to like trust them somewhat.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and I think I said to you as well, I was like, oh, like, it's just not as good as how I would do it. And so we struggle with like wanting it perfect, or wanting it to our standard. But I think really, I don't know, you're almost like boycotting yourself, because you are just more afraid of, the future that you can't really see when you're bringing people on. Like, I remember like when I first hired my first assistant with you, and I was so nervous about hiring someone and setting them all up.
And I'm like, come on, dude, you're earning so much money. What are you doing? Hire someone. You're doing too much work. You're not getting paid enough comparison to how much work you're doing. Like, you would be better off right now. And I'm so proud of you now, because you've got 7 people working for you.
Thank you.
Which is such a step in the right direction compared to last year. We're like on like struggle street, like trying to let go. So it's such a good thing.
And even like with that person in particular, like the first person I hired, like, even her quitting, I remember I called you and I was like, what do I do now?
And you were like, this is the worst day of my life. I was out to dinner in Kingscliff on holidays, mind you. I'm like, oh, he's fucking calling me. It must be bad.
But even that, like, just...
What did it teach you?
Yeah, realizing that, like, when you delegate and when you allow someone to fill that role, and then when you... Like, the fact that I didn't have... Like, that also then got stripped away, and I had to go back into doing the stuff that I got used to not doing for a few months. It really just opened my eyes to, oh, wow, so I wasn't doing any of this for a few months, which allowed me to do all this other stuff.
And then that makes you more successful. You can grow and scale your business more if you're not working in it. And I think that one of my favorite quotes to exist is it's better done than perfect. And I think that's something that like even when I did my Success e-course for the first time and hosted it, I'm like, this isn't perfect. Like I would finalize some of the slideshows the night before. And I'd be like, this isn't perfect. This is not how I want to deliver it. But it still made like 70K. And it still helped so many people because it's better done than perfect. And I think that that's a really good quote for everyone that's watching, because no one's going to do it to your level, because you are successful and you're doing well and you're helping people because you are the way you are. Like how people get people better quicker, or like how many call ratio to booking success we get and things like that. It's all different depending on different packs and people that work for us, but at least someone's still doing it for us.
Yeah, it's almost like like especially with me, what I've noticed, it's a volume game as well. Like if you can then, because you have that team, reach out to more people, it doesn't matter that their percentages are lower, because you play like the volume game of, well, they're just going to be able to reach out to way more people than you can anyways. And so, look, business is definitely interesting, and it's definitely super hard. Like those first, I'd say 2 to 3 years is very, very difficult to actually get a business off the ground.
I think after the first 2.5 years, that's when I felt the best. It was the first 2.5 year grind, and I was like, fuck this. This is... And then I felt like things kept happening, things kept going wrong, like Natchpat's leaving, or you had your employee leave, and you felt like your life was going to fall apart. Like that's how I felt as well. But the thing is, you've got to go through that in order for it to not happen again. Like that's how you learn. And so a lot of people are like, I don't want to do a business because I don't want this to happen, I don't want that to happen. But the reality is, if you want a successful business, you have to go through bad things. You have to go through all the shitty things in order to grow and to avoid them happening again, because that's how you restructure your business to be different so that it never happens again. And you learn from them. And obviously, if you're not learning from your failures, they're going to keep happening.
Yeah.
I don't think that's something you can really avoid. Shit's always going to happen.
Yeah.
But you just get better at problem solving and avoiding them over time, I feel like.
You definitely have to have a lot of grit, and you really need to learn how to be able to swallow failure a lot.
Yeah.
And just digest it and just keep moving forward, because I think that's usually what I would differentiate from someone that should be a business owner and should have their own stuff going on, and someone that shouldn't. And it's probably how they manage when there's a hiccup, when they fail. Like, do they just like live through that for like a whole week?
I mean, I live through it for a whole day, and I cancel my clients and I get depressed and lay in bed, and then the next day I'm up and like, okay, these are the things I need to do differently. So it's okay to have a bad day, but you can't turn it into a whole month. I would say it shouldn't impact you for more than 7 days. It's kind of like the timeline I like. And everything should be resolved in 7 days. Fix the problem by finding a solution. Like, that's my thing. Like, what do you do when a problem comes up? Like, what do you actually do? Like, take me through that.
I mean, I just solve it as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that hard. Problems are always going to like come about, and the beautiful thing about problems is that they can be solved. Like one way or another, you can solve it. You might be stressed out in the moment because you don't see that pathway of solving it, and it's just like, it's the same thing as a lot of people get stressed out about thinking, oh, where I want to take my business in 10 years. There's no way for you to know where you want to take in 10 years, or even how to get there in 10 years. You can only see like your next step, and that's the only thing you should focus on. And it's the same thing with problem solving. Like, what is the first thing you can do to like solve it, and just keep going that way?
Yeah, and I think that like, obviously your mindset when you're going through the problem and knowing that it's having benefit, like one way or another, it's teaching you something so that you can do better. And you need to fully believe that as well, because otherwise you're just going to let it negatively impact you, and it's going to be like a spiral effect. Bad things will keep happening if you feel like they're going to as well. Yeah,
that, for whatever reason, it reminds me of like, I don't know about you, but I have like, do you have friends that like start businesses, or people that start something and they might do it for like a year or two or whatever, and it's sort of like alongside like their work or something, so it's, you know, takes a while to sort of get off the ground, right?
Yeah.
Like a common thing that I've noticed with friends, or just even sometimes when people come and they'll message me for advice or something, you probably get the same thing. They'll set up the website, they'll make everything look pretty, like the Instagram, like everything is sort of ready for action. They might then have, you know, a couple of clients, maybe they've, you know, sold 2, 3, 4 or 5. And I always notice that some obstacle will happen around that time.
Oh, well.
That's too big for them. And it's like, oh, well, I just don't know then how to do this thing. And they get stuck and they believe that it's easier to drop that whole business and go and start another one and do the exact same thing they just did for the last year or two.
Yep.
But what I've noticed happens is they do that and then the same thing will happen with that business. And I think it's just about understanding that it doesn't matter what business you start, you're going to have to jump through hurdles and you're going to have to do stuff that you don't know how to do and you've never done before. And every business has the exact same like hurdles, regardless of what it is. And I think it's really hard for me to say it to people because I have started like 4 completely different businesses and I can tell you they're all pretty much the same with varying, problems, but the structure has always been exactly the same. And I just find that really...
So what made you quit the other ones?
So for me, I had like a YouTube business, a marketing business, and elite football, right? And I was probably still doing the 3 of them up until about a year ago. For me, I just felt like I was spread too thin across all 3 of them. Funnily enough, actually, elite football wasn't actually making any money a year ago. And the other 2 were like decent revenue.
Yeah.
And I just felt like everything was growing, but everything was growing really slow because my time was split between 3 different things.
Right. And that's the same as people having businesses on the side. Like they're not putting their heart and soul in it, and because they're not putting their heart and soul in it, if it doesn't work out, that's okay. You're allowing it to not work out by how you're approaching it and how you're viewing the actual business. Whereas for me and for you, it's like I knew for myself that if Balance Beans didn't work, that I would just keep trying. I didn't care how long it would take. It was going to be successful. And I feel like you were the same.
Yeah, you just have to make a conscious decision, I guess. For me, I just, went, what is the one thing I want to focus on? Yeah. And even though elite football was probably the worst choice to make at that time, I just went, it's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, whatever it is that you want to do is going to work out.
And you've got to believe in the product or the object or the passion. You've got to actually believe it in your heart and soul. And like that's another limitation to a lot of naturopaths. They don't believe in themselves. They don't actually believe they're going to get clients amazing results. I think that the time that they helped that client's acne was just luck. Put your heart and soul in it and know that if it's not successful, you're going to make it successful. You need to feel that in order for a successful business.
It's so interesting you say that because I had complete delusion for years. I still do in terms of like everything that I do and what I've done. But even now, I feel like you saying that, like your team is probably watching that and going, yeah, this is why I work for Brooke. Like this is why, because I believe in not only Brooke's business, but her vision as well.
Yeah.
And I want to be a part of that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that you have that energy about you where you can sort of lead people in a very healthy way and people want to work for you because of what you're building.
Thank you. And even with your messages, you get similar messages and people that work for you, they also feel the same way. Like everyone's so impressed by like how much you show and how proud you are with your business, as you should be. You're helping so many people overseas. But I think that goes to show like that's what it takes to become a leader and really scale the business as well. And have people actually wanting to work for you. I've actually got to love what you do as well. For sure. I think goal setting is also an important subject to cover because I feel like a lot of people set goals and they don't know how to achieve them. And they also set goals up that don't align to what they actually want. So I was going to talk a little bit more about that. For me, what I did when I first started Balance Beans was I actually set goals up that were in line to what I wanted in life. Like what you said with elite football and how you wanted to pick that out of the businesses that you chose because that's what you wanted, right? So I feel like goal setting is really cool because you can set goals based on how you want your life to be. So for me, I was like, this is how much profit I want to make. I want to make that by year 3. And the reason I want to make that much profit is that's how much money I'm going to want to have the life that I want. And so everything molded around getting to that profit number.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really good goal to set because then you can break it down into monthly, yearly goals. And then you just got to figure out and problem solve how you can get to that monthly goal. Like that's how I problem solve and goal set. What about you?
Yeah, I think super insightful, I think, for what you just said, like find something and then work towards it. Like you almost like reverse engineering, like you probably went $1 million, whatever the number was. And then you go, okay, well then how can I make 500,000? Okay. How can I make 100,000, whatever, right? Until you're at whatever point you're at and go, just do more of that shit. Right. I think I did the same thing. I do reverse engineer a lot of the times. I
Yeah,
go, well,
same.
what do I want to get to? And then I just go, well, what numbers do I need to do weekly or something like that? And then figure out how to do that. That's always a lot easier and more digestible. And I think if you're not doing that, like, how can you expect to get there just blindly by doing the same thing you're doing every day, right? So, especially at the start, was to shut a lot of internal voices that I had for myself. Like, I needed to prove to myself certain things.
Yeah.
Like that I was the person I was saying that I was, and so my goals may have been a bit different, like not money wise, a bit more complicated,
like
a bit
review
more
based,
exactly,
and
like
success based on the stories
exactly
and what occurs. Yeah,
how can I get my success rate higher?
Like if you
right?
don't have 50 reviews on a business that you're running day in day out for 10 employees, or however many, then obviously your business isn't doing too well success wise and actually helping people. So besides money, what else is also important to your business and your brand as well? So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
At what point did you feel like you got to that point with the...
Right. I think like imposter syndrome. Everyone likes to talk about imposter syndrome.
It'd be real.
Yeah.
And everyone, sorry, you go. Keep interrupting me. I'm like,
No, nothing new. No, I think honestly probably within the last year, if not less. Like, I think I felt it for like good 5 years, like my whole sort of journey. Just because, like, when you're doing crazy shit or doing stuff that on paper you shouldn't really be doing, or like you have no...
Because you're like, how am I achieving this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have like that stack of like social proof of like, like, hey, I've already done this for 10 years. Like, you can be a lawyer, and if you're a lawyer and you've been being law for like 15 years, like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to feel like a lawyer. I've been doing this for 15 years, right? Yeah. But when you get just getting started, it's like it's hard to give yourself that merit.
And I think a lot of times people think that imposter syndrome essentially goes. I think it goes and spirals into different areas for me anyway, because you're growing bigger and bigger and bigger and scaling. So then you're like, well, fuck, I've never built a supplement line before. What the fuck am I doing? So I think that if you're really doing well in your business and really growing it as quickly as you should, imposter syndrome isn't something that technically leaves. It just goes to a different area. For me anyway.
Yeah, I think the first one's always the hardest. When you're
used to it.
Yeah, that sort of feeling where you're just like, you're trying to sell yourself and you're trying to like get people to buy your service or your product, and you believe in it, but there's always that little voice inside you where you're like, that doubt of like, or the fear or whatever that's sort of eating at you, like, this isn't going to work, or you're not even this or whatever. That's always the hardest, because that stays for you for so long. And then it's not until like you actually do enough of it or get to a certain point where you're just, it just, I don't know, for me it just clicked. I remember like my second business trip overseas, when I, like the recent one I had.
Euro or
Yeah.
Dubai?
Europe. It was just like, oh wait, I am who I say I am.
Yeah.
And it just
vanished.
vanished.
Such a nice feeling.
I haven't been clearer since. Like, it's just, it's such an amazing feeling
That
to have.
is so good.
Because then, like, you then project it to everyone else. And then you, like, when you're even talking with clients or whatever, like, they can feel it as well. And all of a sudden, it feels like your business just starts to explode. But really, it's because of those really lonely hours that you spent for, like, years trying to get there.
People think that how you feel doesn't have a projection on your business. And if you don't have a positive mindset and don't believe that you're going to get there, you're not going to fucking get there.
Yeah.
Like, how you felt, that would have projected 1,000 miles. Like, and people say projections, like, oh yeah, it's all airy-fairy. It's like literally like how confident you are in talking to a client is going to sign a client. That is also what it's about as well. Being 100%. Able to show that. So I think that's definitely a key element. There's something else I was going to mention, but I can't remember what it was.
My support agents as well, like when I'm training them up how to talk to clients for those initial like free consults that we give, I tell them like the basic stuff, like make sure you're not sitting down, make sure you're standing up, because your energy is going to be higher. And when you get on a call with a kid or a parent that has just had a long day and their energy is here, your energy needs to be here, so then they can meet you in the middle. There's little things like that where you need to just take advantage of all the stuff that you can when you don't have that experience to actually play in your favor as well. I think
that if there are some tips I would give to people in order to run a successful business, obviously actually believe in it. believe in yourself or believe in what you're selling, it would be to work on your energy and your confidence, because how you're feeling internally is going to show, and you really need to have that oomph, like you were explaining. There would be some really important like internal things that I would be working on business wise. Is there anything that you think that would be really important as well besides those points?
I mean, I think now I see it a little bit differently. I'd say things like, I'd work on yourself before I even start the business. Like, if you
know your mental blocks.
Yeah, if you're not fit and healthy, right? If you don't feel like you could maybe look good on camera, or maybe say the right things, so you're not confident in speaking, or like those little things.
Yeah.
I think checking those and usually this will get checked as you work on the business anyways, but just as like a start, before if you're someone that doesn't even know what you want to do, that's where I would just start, as you're trying to figure out what it is you want to do.
And also all the things you don't want to do, they're the things that you need to do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, have a lot of that try. I don't like being in front of the camera. Well, that's what you need to do.
Probably, yeah.
Because that's what's stopping you and blocking you from being successful. Whatever you don't like doing. And so whenever I wake up in the morning, I do the things that I don't like doing the most first. Just get them over and done with, because I know I'm going to have a good day. Whereas if you think about all the things you don't want to do and you leave it to like 9 p.m. at night, you're going to have another shit day. You're going to feel so good and positive if you've just done the shit that you need to do when you need to do it.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be things that make you uncomfortable. There's always going to be things that are anxiety inducing, and you're always going to have like fear points and imposter syndrome no matter how successful you are. Like, even from where I grew Balance Beings to where it is now, obviously the imposter syndrome is different. I know that I can get over it, and I know that when I'm doing something new like a podcast, or I'm doing a supplement line, or I'm buying a property, something I've never done before, there's always going to be doubts and fears, but I know that that's part of what happens, and that's normal for me. Okay, I can acknowledge that I'm feeling this, but this doesn't associate with my success. I know that now, and because I have that confidence of knowing this isn't going to stop me, because I dealt with that first imposter syndrome, I think for sure, like, it builds your confidence each time you successfully get over a hurdle right in the business, instead of just giving up.
Yeah, I'd add to that and just say, like, go all in. Like, I feel like too many people are always doing like
let's just
side
start something
projects.
on the side.
Yeah.
It's not going to go anywhere.
And
like, even for you, I'm like, get the receptionist. What are you doing? I was so angry at you. I don't know if you remember.
I remember.
I was like, what are you doing, bro?
But that was the mental block for me.
I know.
At that time, that was my mental block.
Like, compared to where you are, you've grown like at least, I think, 500% in 12 months. And that's, you wouldn't have done that if you didn't hire that person. So that block you're seeing, it's that tiny little bit in the road, like a little bump compared to what you're going, but that teaches you more confidence. And that is what you need in order to keep going more and more successful, to get to the harder bumps. But they won't feel as hard as that small bump, because you learn to like grow from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I can deal with so much now because of all the little tiny little bumps I went through that felt harder than the ones that I go through now.
Yep.
I think.
For sure. Yeah.
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, you definitely get molded as you walk the path.
Like, I'll have my naturopath managers call me, and my my Jess manager call me, like, they're like, oh my God, this has happened. I'm like, okay. Yeah. It doesn't even like worry me. I'm like, hey, do this and this. And like, okay, thank God, that's fine. And they just feel better because they've like ran it past me, and it's not something they're dwelling on now. Yeah. But that would have stressed me out if I was back where they are currently going through their journey of what they're learning, because they're at a different point, because I've obviously gone through that already.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy that you develop so much and grow so much from the business. And that's what I like about it, as well as it changes who you are as a person, and like your grit changes.
Yeah. You had definitely a lot. I mean, like, I've always admired the fact that you, not only did you do the business, but you did it with like 2 little ones as well around you, and you had all this external stuff going on as well.
Like, my separation happened at the time. It was my first Nat hire, and then she left a month later when he was like moving out, and it was just really hard. Yeah. But I feel like you have to go through hardship to never want to feel like that again as well. And you got to grow from each thing that you go through. But thank you. It was difficult, but I'm glad I did it. Yeah.
And I actually, like, I use you almost as like an example when people like try and like bring like excuses or whatever, just because I feel like, one, it's very hard to have people around you that are at a certain level after you pass like a certain hump.
Yeah.
And so it's good for me to be like, yeah, but you know, Brooke did it when she had this going on, kind of thing. So like, you having that, there's no, like, I don't have that much sympathy for people because of your sort of
you're always
journey.
going to have struggles. You're always going to have things that are going wrong in the business. Of course, we all have different backgrounds. Someone some people come from millionaires, some people come from really poor people. That doesn't depict how successful you're going to be. Like, yeah, it's going to be harder for you, but you're also going to learn more from that as well. And I think that that's definitely a good factor to keep in mind. Like, I obviously started from nothing. I never had any help or support. And even when I started Balance Beings, I had $4,000 to my name, and I used every last cent besides $150. And that was obviously really scary. I didn't have any clients book in the first 2 weeks, and I was like crying every night thinking, what the fuck have I just done? And like, Indy was 3, I had 2, and I had a 2-week-old newborn when I started Balance Beings. And I needed that hardship to be like, well, I've just spent all our savings. I can't let this be this.
Go under, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably even forget stuff like that as you
That's
go.
so
as you go
triggering when
along.
you feel
yeah,
it.
Yeah, and then you think about it, and you're like, oh my god. You think back to like how it felt in the moment.
How bad it felt.
Yeah.
I'm so far away from that, thank God. But I think marketing is something that we both nail quite well. You in particular better. Alan is someone I've gone to definitely for the most support in regards to marketing, because he markets and his brand image is amazing, and that's because he's put the work into that. But marketing is something that a lot of naturopaths don't do, and they'll hardly market or do ad boosts or even do professional photos. And we wanted to touch base a little bit more about that and why it's important for our brand. What would you say would be the most important marketing tactics for people getting started, and why it really impacts the success? Because people are like, oh, it's not worth doing $1,000 photo shoot. It's not going to get me anywhere.
Thanks for that.
That's okay.
Look, I think it's important to note first that attention is the number one currency, and if no one is seeing what you're doing, or if no one knows about you, no one can buy any product or any service of you.
Yep.
Right? That's like just the most basic, like why anyone should focus any time on organic content or running ads or doing the photo shoot or doing those posts, like whatever it is, updating the website. It goes so far, but if you don't understand that if you like aren't doing those things, like
if you don't have a website, where's everyone going? If you've got a 10% booking rate, if 1,000 people are seeing your stuff versus 100 people, the amount of people booking it is going to be different.
Yeah.
And people aren't going to want to book in as well and take you professionally if you don't have that brand image. And that's why it's so important. What do you want to portray to people? What do you want to look like? What are like 3 key elements of what you want people to view you as? I think is really important stepping stone. But my business grew 250% within the first 3 months of doing my first photo shoot. Awesome. Professional photo shoot.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it was so good.
And you probably in that moment you probably thought, man, this is expensive, because these like photo shoots, videographers, all that sort of stuff is really expensive. And so I had to
fly my nuts in as well, because one of them was interstate, and I was like, oh my god, like literally $4,000 later.
Yeah.
But it was so worth it because it just helped with like our booking demand, doing those professional reels behind the scenes, all of that. People wanted to see everyone in person, and brand is so important, especially when you're starting off, if you want to really compete. Yeah.
Good that you mentioned that starting off, because I get messages sometimes, and you probably do as well, probably more than me, of people messaging going like, oh, like I really want to become an agent. I love like what you do. Like you're an inspiration. Like how, like give me advice, or how can I do what you do, right? And a lot of the times I think they say that they don't know how to grow it to as big. The agency, oh, you're like an industry leader, Alan. So like how can I get there? And I think they miss the point that they have something that I don't, and it's that they can still help people one-to-one. So if they start posting content, they can show, Brooke Alan, right? And they can show that they are the only person working the business, which means you're going to get direct access to the actual person, right? For X period of time. Yeah. Whereas as you get bigger, like now with you and your business, you don't, I know that people that come on for consults now that you haven't seen, they can't see you, right? Yeah. And so it's about understanding what your strengths maybe are against the sort of industry leaders, and playing towards them, and not trying to replicate and become something that you're not straight away. And
don't offer something that they're offering exactly the same, because if they're offering it, they're likely that the people are going to see the OGs, and you've got to offer something different. You've got to be different. You've got to show people how you are different. So when I first started out, I went, well, I know the latest research because I just graduated. I am going to put the most effort into your case and actually research every case, and everything's going to be clinically based because I've got the time to do that. That's what I honed in on, and that's why it worked. Because everyone that was doing it for 20 years, oh yeah, that you've got leaky gut, wouldn't test it because they're so stuck in their ways that they knew it was leaky gut. Whereas I was like, well, I'm going to test it. I'm going to make sure, because if I don't make sure, that I'm going to have an anxiety attack because I didn't know what I was doing properly as well, if you know what I mean. Like, I needed that to feel confident as well. So yeah, definitely hone in on ways that you were actually different as well, for sure. That's such a good tip.
Yeah. For me, it was like, I don't know, when I started, it was like I was 20 and my competition was all like 45,
Literally.
55-year-olds. And so for me, like, stuff that I did back then was like, well, I can focus on media. They don't know how to like do any sort of media stuff. And especially in my industry, there's a lot of scammers, a lot of people that like take advantage of certain things. And so for me, it's just about doing the right things and figuring out how to do the right things and make money still.
And also the fact that you were the same age group as everyone that wanted the dream that you wanted. Yeah. So it actually works in a positive.
Exactly. So I had only just gone through that experience, and I as a 20-year-old, or even now a 25-year-old, I can relate a lot more to the dreams of a 17-year-old than a 55-year-old can.
100%.
Right. And so, just understanding that and using that, like when you're thinking of marketing, lean towards what makes you you and what you can provide for the person. Not, I think the worst thing you can do is to replicate. Like I have
someone that replicates everything I do.
Do you? Me too. I almost like, do you take it as a compliment?
Yeah, I'm like, this is taking the piss now, but...
Yeah. It's tough because
it's a copy and paste.
Like full direct?
Like even like packages we offer will be copy and paste. I'm like, oh, we did that 3 months ago. Exact same price, exact same features.
Oh, really? I find that so interesting because I guess I didn't have anyone to copy, for starters.
Yeah.
So there was no one that I could actually replicate
Neither, because
anything.
no one was doing really testing based on children or mums. Like no one was doing what I was doing, but that's how we became successful. So that's what you need to hone in on instead of trying to look at what everyone's doing. Look at what everyone's doing and do something different to that, for sure.
Yeah, I can't even knock it because I didn't have anyone to copy. Maybe if roles reversed, I would have copied. Do you know what I mean? So like, I can't even like.
But you would have soon realised that you can't copy the best.
Yeah, I can't. I can't even knock it. But there's people that like, they just start and they'll
be like, oh, well, that's
copy
working for them.
my exact reel edit, my exact song, like the exact way that was edited, like everything to the T, just with a different club. And I think that my ads, that's the only one that annoys me because I spend a lot of like my time making sure that what I say in ads and whatever is like good for the funnel.
Yeah.
And when people make ads and they copy my exact hook, my exact like everything I say in the ad pretty much just for themselves, that does get to me, I will admit. But it's like you're copying, like the only thing people can really copy is so surface level that
it's not going to go anywhere in the funnel anyways, because you don't know what I'm doing after that, and you don't know what I'm doing to call them back and whatnot.
Exactly.
I think for like naturopaths and health businesses, a lot of the times the most successful content that I see is obviously boosting your ads, but besides that, you've actually got to make sure you're hitting the key markers first. Like make sure that you look like the professional in the business with blogs and your website actually looks up to date. You've got professional images, and then after you've done that, you need to create a problem, fix the solution to that problem, and then also create demand in that. I don't know if it's similar with your business, but that's pretty much everything that we follow for us. So if you're wanting marketing advice, that's like what we would do. For example, if someone's got acne, we'd talk about the acne, the problem, why it's happening. The solution would be like, okay, we need to do a hormone test, or we need to do a gut microbiome test to see why the acne's occurred. And then we'd talk through cases, and then we'd be like, okay, we've only got 3 packages left. So we're going through that whole funnel continuously, and that's how we market. What about you guys? Do you have any tactics that you guys kind of use that you find really work for your business?
I think at the start, if you're someone that is low budget and you don't have that, you're not able to pay for a videographer or a photographer or whatever it is to help you create content, I would say the lowest barrier entry and the thing that's going to change your business the most is offering free service at the start, and in exchange, ask people to do testimonials for you.
Yeah, that's a good
testimonials is probably the number one thing, especially with my data, that people go homepage or a service and they'll go straight to your reviews, like your testimonials or whatever, or a past client. So
you need at least, I would say to start out, you need at least 4 reviews. So if you're not getting that from somewhere else, you need to offer free consultations to then get the reviews. Otherwise people aren't going to take you seriously and in comparison to your competitors easy for.
And humans are funny, you know. People want to do what other people have already done, and that just makes them feel more comfortable. Anyway, so by people being able to see that other people have done what you're about to do with them, it sells for you, and it's something that makes you look good, and it doesn't look like you're actually selling, which is the beautiful thing. I think marketing
100%.
Don't sell. Try not to be like, so, hey, buy this product, or hey, do this, whatever.
Like when we're selling, what we're doing is we're just talking about acne, then we're talking about what we did for a case and the amazing results and before and afters, a review from the client, and then creating demand with only 2 packages left. That's us selling. But that's us helping you and educating you at the same time. But yeah, for sure, at least 4 reviews, I would say. Like, even for me, if I'm going to get a carpenter to do a fit out, I'm not going to be picking them if I can't see that they've done similar works. It's literally that simple. For sure.
It's stuff you can't see as well. Like when you're doing organic content, I think it's really hard to track like where leads come from and whatnot. And recently my team, with like the free consultations that people have on their website, there's been people from like all over the world, like not Australia, like France, England, like Ireland, like Nigeria, like all these different countries. And we've been like so weirded out, like where are these people coming from? And Mitch, my marketing guy, put a note, realized like, actually, Alan, these people are all coming from your YouTube channel. And so there's all these people that like,
it's amazing.
Yeah, you don't even know, but it's stuff where if you just give value and don't even tell people to go in, they're going to by themselves go on your website. They're going to look through everything without you even asking them to.
People need to trust you as well. So that's where content comes important. Like people want to get to know you and trust you and know who you actually are before they're going to come to you. I think that's something that we both do really well in our business. People know who we are. People know who my naturopaths are and whatnot. They know your brand so well and you. And that's where success lies as well. People actually need to trust you, and they're going to do that through seeing you, I think.
For sure. You definitely... Yeah, and as the business goes along as well, like you're gonna have different dragons to slay. Like I think it's what makes it fun. A lot of the times where like I was stuck and I was like, Brooke, I may be good at marketing, but I don't know how to have like this operational stuff. I don't know what to do.
One night I came to Alan's house at 8 p.m. and I was like, help me. I've got a person starting and no one's booking in. I need help. I need to pay this person. I was like, help me make an ad. Do you remember that? I was like shooting myself. I was like, okay, fine, I need to learn this thing.
And it do be like that, you know?
It is. It's like you need to be in a panicky state sometimes to finally learn something you don't want to learn because you've been avoiding it.
Yeah. And then it's like there's something else to do, you know? And the transition's always beautiful as well of like, okay, now I've got to be less hands-on with clients, but like I get to focus on the marketing because if Brooke doesn't market, her team doesn't have anyone to actually help.
And then everyone has no jobs.
Exactly.
Like,
and
it's that simple. Like
the pressure gets different because you're like, actually, I need to pay
there's
all
always
these
some
other
type
people.
of pressure, but...
Exactly. I don't know. Business, for sure, like something, I don't know, like...
I love it.
Yeah, you need to have so many different qualities, I think, to be the main man or whatever it is.
You need to be also, a lot of times, like even as a manager or as an owner, you need to be superior in the fact that people need to listen and respect you for where you are in your spot. If you're going to have someone that walks all over you, they're going to walk all over your business as well. And I've had that with like past naturopaths too.
I'd add even with clients as well. I'd be very
client
specific.
boundaries, like, emails only.
Yeah, people
100%.
are going to like pull. Especially at the start when you give stuff for free. I don't know why the worst clients are always the ones
when
that
you give stuff for
free.
You're going to then get more people that you're attracting that kind of energy.
Yeah.
We need studies on energy and how it actually works because I swear to God, this shit is real. I want proof because it annoys me that I can't tangibly see how it works and explain it to people, but it is a thing.
Yeah, it's annoying how it works that way. You do stuff for free, people want, like, you give them your hand, they're going to ask, they're going to start pulling your arm, and you just have to, like, it makes you be a bit cold in certain aspects, but I think if you, or anyone watching, if you just sort of go the route that you understand that you have to have a really high risk tolerance, I think, because if you don't, it's going to be very hard to push forward, and you have to have a lot of grit and be able to swallow failure quickly, because if you don't, you're going to procrastinate on the problem ahead of you and you're never going to get over it.
Yeah.
I honestly think those two things,
and
if you can, and boundaries, I guess. There's all these little mini things, but...
Boundaries is the big one. Because
Yeah.
I have a few naturopaths that I mentor that really want to scale, but they're too busy replying to everyone, all these emails, and clients message them every single day that they don't have time to scale the business because they're exhausted. I'm like, cut them off. Tell them, okay, from now, like, this is what personally something we do for you all, to help with client boundaries and expectations. We say, here's your treatment plan. If you've got any questions, let us know. They'll send a question. But okay, great. This is the answer. If you have any other questions, let us know in the next consult. So we create that boundary straight away, which I find really helpful.
That's
So
good.
you can help them, but only help them to a certain amount, because otherwise they're going to keep asking and forwarding stuff to you the whole 4 weeks that you don't see them. So boundaries is definitely a big one, because if you don't have proper boundaries in place, you're not going to have the energy to scale.
Yeah, awesome.
And also remembering that one thing I felt like I was constantly failing at is I was like, why do I have to keep outsourcing? What's wrong with me? Why can't I deal mentally with what I used to deal with? Why can't I do all my accounting, my GST, my banking, my marketing, or seeing all the same amount of clients? But you've got to remember that as you get your business bigger, you have to outsource more. And in order to want to keep scaling, you need to keep outsourcing. That's something that I felt super guilty about, because I felt like I could never get on top of where I was at, because I would finally deal with something and then I'd have to outsource something else because I just couldn't handle where the business was going, and I felt like I wasn't going anywhere. But in fact, it's because we were scaling that I had to keep dropping things to scale quicker.
Yeah,
Do you
that's
feel
a
like
really
that's
good point. Yeah.
like everyone? Yeah, if you stop outsourcing, you're gonna probably stop scaling, because the amount of admins and emails are going to increase. The amount of people you need to send to debt collection is going to increase, right? It's just a volume game.
It's also like, look, the first 2-3 years you have to do everything. You just got to suck it up and you just got to like go through that. But as you start to grow, put down the stuff that you don't like doing and outsource that first, for starters. And I think every time that as you move along the business and you go, actually, I no longer like doing the GST and the tax and the BASO and all that sort of stuff.
I outsource first.
Yeah, outsource that stuff first. Like right now, I don't like editing. Editing these content takes a lot of time. Outsource that. Like, as you go along, I don't know why, it seems so simple, but it's so hard to actually do. And you just need to keep letting go of stuff that you need to do that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Because that's the stuff that you need to be able to let go to actually do other stuff that other people can't actually do for you.
And people are like, but I can do both. The thing is, your creative juices aren't going to flow the same if you're not outsourcing, because you're too busy worrying and hustling and being a worker bee in your business, that you're not stepping away and able to scale it and be creative to know how to scale it. It will come if you allow yourself as well. If you're stuck in that kind of mid shift in the business, like you were so creative once you weren't in a worker bee anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just start thinking of cooler shit to do that's harder, and you go, well, I'll start doing that while other people are doing the other stuff 100%. That you had to do.
Yeah.
You just gotta let go. Like, even like the content, like my monthly content, like all the videos I post on YouTube, all the videos I post on Instagram and TikTok, anything to do with ads, anything, I've got it down to like a science. Right now it takes me 2 days every month.
It's amazing.
Where I'll sit down, videographer will come, film everything, and then that's it. It goes away and everything gets done for me, right? And I think anyone can replicate that with any part of their business and not spend, 10, 15 hours on making content.
And get better at structure as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Structure things better so that things are more streamlined in the business too, as you like grow and get bigger.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us, Alan. I hope you guys learned heaps about all things business.
Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. So
Can you do my outro now?
My fun fact is this outro that I've got for Balance Beings, Alan actually created it for us. I was sitting down at a coffee shop with him and I was like, I can't do my outro and intro, help me. And he helped me create it. That's just why it's quirky and weird, because he did it. Thanks for joining us on this week's Unhinged Health Journey.
Until next time, may your health be balanced and your days
be natural.